Hello, everyone. Welcome to ELI, the only podcast in India where we bring a new founder on every episode to talk about their journey and their story of building a company. And today we have with us Harinie Sekaran, who is the founder of Leadle Consulting, and they help B2B founders and revenue teams to fix one of the most pressing problems, which is setting up a predictable growth engine. Hi, Harini. Welcome to ELI.
Hi, Priya. Very, very good to meet you. Thank you.
Likewise. Uh, So, to start with, before we start talking about what problem that you're solving, would love to have a context on your background. Where did you study? Where did you grow up? And how did you sort of arrive at entrepreneurship?
Very accidentally. So I was born in Salem in Tamil Nadu.
Mm-hmm,
And my father was they worked in SBM. So we moved around a lot. Every 2 years, we were in a different city. I was in a different school.
mm-hmm,
So because of that, I think that right from the beginning, I've had this ability to, I want to say, just move into new groups of people and be able to hold conversations, I suppose.
mm-hmm,
I did my bachelor's in Chennai in SRM, and then I did my master's in Texas A&M University. I worked there
mm-hmm,
for a couple of years and then I came back to India. It was always my intention to sort of just experience studying and living abroad and then come back. I never
mm-hmm,
intended to settle down. There was a point when I felt like if I didn't come back at that point, then I would just settle down, which is why I came back like in 2 years.
mm-hmm,
My first job and pretty much every job I've held has been in sales. That was also, I want to say, serendipitous. I studied biotechnology, but I found out during my master's that I did not have the appetite to be in research, which was the most, I mean, natural progression for someone with that background.
mm-hmm,
I graduated in 2010, so that was also at the top of the 2009 actually. So that was at the top of the recession. So
mm-hmm,
the only company that came recruiting had a sales job open, and that's kind of what I went into. My first job was in sales, but I
okay.
immediately liked it. In today we do a lot of coaching, a lot of training, but back then it was essentially you kind of go out there and learn on the job. That's how I
Mm-hmm,
did a lot of my initial learning, and then I read a lot of books. Went through courses myself, and that's how I educated myself in sales. So
mm-hmm,
throughout my career, I've always held jobs in sales.
okay.
Obviously progressed from doing BDM level work, cold calling. That was the first thing, and then we started doing emails. LinkedIn all
Mm-hmm,
came a lot later. So in the all of the initial years was cold calling and emailing. That's how we did, and field like visits. You visit customers. That space has changed so much in the last 5 to 6 years because of all of the tech that's available. It's been very exciting.
mm-hmm,
Um, so then after that, in 2015, I kind of wanted to just take a break for a while and figure out what I wanted to do next. That was the time when entrepreneurship kind of came accidentally to me. So one of the customers that I had been working with and holding the account for, they
mm-hmm,
wanted me to help them build their own internal sales team. And I
okay.
said that, well, I've been doing it. I was on a break, but happy to see if I could help. And that's kind of how I got started with entrepreneurship. So I worked
Mm-hmm,
with them on a 3, 4 month project. They were very happy. And then they sent me a couple of other referrals. And I think by
mm-hmm,
2016, I had like 4 or 5 customers. And I had already had some subcontractors hired because I was not able to handle all the customers by myself. So
mm-hmm,
then we went out and set up Leadle Consulting. So in the initial years, it was a lot of hiring, training, getting people to call, set up meetings, fill top of funnel, and so on. Right, that was the work that we were doing. Customers
mm-hmm,
were really a widespread because in the case of most services companies, you work through your network and through your referrals. So therefore, you're not really controlling who comes to you as a customer. But most of these
mm-hmm,
people were B2B services companies. I'd had no experience in B2C. So that's kind of the customers I ended up getting.
okay.
Over the next couple of years, once we set Leadle up, it was a lot of take the work that came in because, like I said, in my head, I was not yet an entrepreneur. I was just doing what came my way. The work was exciting. It was
Mm-hmm,
all working out. It was only in 2019 that I started thinking about, oh, I have to really grow this company because we had employees, we had every other aspect of a company except that in my own head, we were not yet that entity, right? That only happened in 2019. So it
Mm-hmm.
was from 2019, 2020 that we started focusing on growing the organization.
Right.
Leadle as a, sort of growth partner for startups and SMBs. Why
Mm-hmm.
startups and SMBs? I think at that point of time, as you might already know, the huge startup boom was going on everywhere. So companies,
Right.
the ones that sought us out were primarily the tech startups. And after 1, 2 years of working in that space, so much of our experience was in tech startups that we utilized that as leverage to get more companies in the same space. So
Mm-hmm.
that's a bit of the origin story about Lidl. I've talked about it in the past. I didn't really grow up with dreams of entrepreneurship. It came to me and I found out that I enjoyed it and I was doing a fairly good job of it. So, that's what I've been doing.
Wonderful. So let's go deep into the problem statement. What is it that you do today? You started out with the email, cold calling, field sales, LinkedIn came up. So these are the some of the traditional methods of generating demand for a company. How is it? How has it changed today, and what kind of services that you give to your clients today?
That's a big loaded question, actually, Priya, because um, so in 2016, when I set Leadle up as a company, I also got a co-founder, and my co-founder had actually been specializing in setting up systems and processes for sales. He'd
Mm-hmm.
continuously been working for automobile companies, and he pitched in because at that time itself we could see that we needed to start using tech. So the difference is vast, right? From in order to get data to call, you needed to do so much work and put in so much effort to the data just being available through the multiple databases that were there. That was the first change that we started seeing.
Mm-hmm.
Then, obviously, apart from cold calling, email became a big channel. Around 2019, 18, 19, 20, LinkedIn became a very, very big channel. And it was still fresh at that point. Through 2020 to 2024, we've seen a lot of tools come into the market for automation,
Mm-hmm.
right? So we have seen tools that came in and automated LinkedIn outreach, and then tools that came in and automated email outreach, tools that automated calling, dialers that came in and enabled you. All of this happened between 2019 to 23.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always a bit of a balancing act, right? Tools come, you can automate. And the platform, whether it is email or whether it is LinkedIn, they get more stringent when they see that a huge mass of messages are going out. Then you have to get better at what you do. This is a
Right.
constant cycle. That part has not really changed. Now, coming to today, like if you ask me what's different about the way we do sales today, I kind of think that we may be going back to the basics. Let me explain what I mean by that, right? I think that today everybody will agree that it's harder to generate pipeline than it has been in the last 5 years. This is
Yes.
not because it's hard to automate, it is because it's too easy to automate and sell things. So,
Hmm.
mindless messages going out to hundreds of thousands of people has become the norm today. So, today, if you want to stand out, you pick up the phone and call somebody. You tell them I'm coming
Hmm.
to meet you in person. You host events, networking dinners, and things like that. That is kind of what is working right now. So the cost of acquisition of a customer had dropped significantly, right? Because of all of the digital methods of onboarding.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody is seeing that going up today because now you have to spend more to acquire the interest of a single customer or a prospect and then move them through your funnel than it has in the last 5 years. But I think it's a natural consequence of it's just that balancing act that keeps going on.
Mm-hmm.
So the smart way to operate today is to automate the menial repetitive tasks, right? Like the getting of the data, getting of the signals, identification of people. But the human element has to come in with understanding what do you say to this person that is relevant to them at this point of time. You can't game that with AI alone. You can use AI to give you the information, but the actual piece where you're reaching out to these people with a mindful message has to be human. So,
Right.
in a certain sense, I feel like we're using AI, but going back to the basics.
Hmm. So, in a way, what I feel is too much automation has happened, and uh, if I receive a message on LinkedIn, almost instantly I would just read and archive that message. Same happens on email. So much of cold emails are coming these days. Cold calls are coming from credit card companies, banks. So, uh, And there has been a lot of buzz around AI as well. So just help me understand, how is AI disrupting this industry? Because a lot of people I've heard saying that AI is replacing job, AI is actually making a difference in the processes. But in my observation, I think AI just making a lot of nuisances, uh, writing messages which nobody likes to read, and it's overhyped. Nobody wants to read a AI message or speak to a robocaller. The human touch is always, just like the old times, it's always more relevant, more personal than any AI message.
I think the hype is real. I'll start with saying that. The fact that AI is disrupting sales is the space that we are in, right? I think the hype is real. We
Mhm.
ourselves used to be like a roughly 40 employee company, and we are like a 22, 23 employee company right now. Because a lot of the repetitive jobs, which is market, like essentially research is a major component that we are using tools to do right now. That is a big part of
Mhm.
what AI has come in to replace.
What kind of research you do with
Market
AI?
research, right? Like, so we used to have
Mm-hmm.
a market research team per se, whose job would be to go deep into accounts, dive in, and get information. Now we don't
Mm-hmm.
really need that anymore because this data, one, if you're willing to pay for it, is available. And two, there are tools that enable you to pick up the data in a smart manner also. So I think that the hype is real in one sense, which is it's how it has always been. Nothing new is what I'm trying to say. When something new comes in, almost always it is the repetitive jobs that get replaced. That is what has happened in sales also. So we can
Mm-hmm.
automate research, we can automate a lot of the list building. What we cannot
Mm-hmm.
automate, for example, is exactly what you said. Nobody wants to talk to a robocaller. However, what you can do is you can use AI to pick up the right signals for somebody. So, for example, let's say you want to target a company who's put out hiring posts for revenue operations leaders, as an example, right? That data is available. You can pick up companies, who have put up posts hiring RevOps leaders or RevOps teams. Now, then you will have to bring in your knowledge of what will this RevOps leader typically do. Now, that is still subject matter expertise that I will bring in or a customer will bring in. And then a message can be crafted along the lines of how can we help them not make that spend and do something else, right? So if
Mm-hmm.
you can see, roughly 50% of this workflow can be automated, but the remaining 50% is expertise driven and human driven. So the answer is, in my opinion, I think that I want to say around 2016, 17, we started breaking up the sales function, right? Like we used to be BDMs. BDMs will do research, they will find people, they will reach out to people, they will pitch, they will close the account, they'll also manage the account. This is kind of how it was earlier. Then account
Mm-hmm.
management became separate. Then you got the SDR function where you'll just do the top of the pipeline work, and then an account executive function who would take care of the rest of the work. Now, this is
Right.
no longer necessary because a lot of the SDR function itself can be automated. All of the research, the reaching out to people, except for the actual messaging and outreach, everything else can be automated. So the function is actually getting integrated again.
Mm-hmm.
So when I say the hype is real, it is real for people who know how to apply AI mindfully and not just use it to automate everything. If you automate everything, you'll just be one of 10,000, 100,000 people making noise. But if you automate mindfully, you have the chance to be one of the few people who can stand out. But
Mm-hmm.
walking that line is not very easy because it's very tempting to just automate and send 50,000 messages and see what happens, right? And
Right.
we don't recognize that we are spoiling our brand. We are contributing to the
Yes.
noise, which tomorrow you will only be disrupting you reaching your customer. So that is, I
Yes.
think, the line that people are trying to find today. But if we do that, I do think it's a very exciting time to be in sales.
You spoke about Signal, so that reminds me of a tool that came out from Zoom Info, Signal. So they will probably scan through the internet. If somebody in a particular company, let's say there are 1,000 people company, and somebody has a requirement, it will capture that signal, and it will notify you as a seller that this person is looking out for this particular solution, may be relevant to you and maybe help you with the personalized message. So Can you help me understand how do you capture these signals, which all tools that you use, and how are you leveraging AI on that?
Yeah, sure. So honestly, my co-founder is a better person to talk about tools because their tools are like this. Every month is a new tool that's coming out, right? So
Yes.
therefore, we actually have a sales ops team whose job it is to continuously keep evaluating new tools because obviously, initially when a tool comes out for something, such as for capturing signals, it's going to be quite expensive. And then as more and more tools come out doing the same thing, the cost of this is going to get driven down. So this is always how
Right.
it's today, what we use for capturing signals is that obviously we use a combination of Sales Navigator and we use Clay. Clay
Mm-hmm.
as a tool is something that we use primarily for signal capturing. We've
Mm-hmm.
built that into our workflow and it helps you capture different types of signals, right? Okay, are they hiring for SDRs? Is there a new RevOps leader who's come in? Is there some industry information that has come out, funding information that has come out?
Mm-hmm.
Let's say a company has put out a post for five different people in a particular team. They're going big with some sort, let's say in a product team, they're going big with some sort of new development and they need more people. So the signals, you should know what to look for. So let's say you're selling something. What are the potential signals that can help you sell better is something you will have to know as you know your own product. You can use the tool to capture that particular signal and create a small pool of data. Like, so there are 80 people who've hired in, let's say 80 people in Series B companies who are hiring RevOps leaders today. I
Mm-hmm.
pick that pool and then I pitch whatever is my value proposition to the decision maker there. And there again, we can sort of segment in terms of in larger companies, you're going to have a user, you're going to have a buyer, and then you're also going to have an evaluator who may actually be different from these two roles. So you
Right.
need to send messages that are relevant to each of them individually. These are all things which the human will bring in, but you can
Mm.
use the data and the tools. Uh, you collect it much, much more easily than you could because the 5, 10 years earlier, you would have to scour the internet just to get this information. You don't have to.
Yes.
Today, you're willing to pay for it. It's available to you at a click. But what you do with that data, how you position yourself is still going to be up to you.
Mm. Got it. Cold calls, do they work even today?
Um, I want to say the answer is it depends on the market really, because we see continuously changing patterns. Earlier, we used to see continuously changing patterns on an annual basis. Now, the patterns
Mm.
are changing on a monthly basis. So,
Okay.
what I have to say is there are two markets where cold calling still works, that is India and US.
Mm.
In a lot of the European markets, we're not seeing calling working.
Right.
Um, and then within India and US, of course, there are additional barriers going up, right? Like with respect to cold calling.
Mm.
So I feel the more difficult it is to action a particular channel, that channel will work better. This is why I think that, oh, Apple is introducing a voice assistant which will screen your calls is a very good thing because it forces you to actually stand out and add value to that person
Mm.
that you're calling, right? So I personally think that calls are still working. Actually, it's working quite well, but use that is not because that is not because of anything other than the fact that the other channels are too easy today. So if you simply pick up the phone and do one mindful call, you're standing out a little bit from the other people who are not doing that and who are just sending a lot of emails. Even
Mm-hmm.
there, you can do calling more mindfully rather than cold calling. If you're able to pick up signals from, let's say I send out a LinkedIn invite to you. You've seen it, you've accepted it, but you didn't reply. And then we do a cold call on the basis of that behavior. It's going to be much more fruitful than a random cold call that I do.
Right.
Cold calling with an intent or with a purpose. I saw that you said this today, and I therefore reached out to you because of so and so, is going to be
Mm-hmm.
much more useful than a random cold call. Again, the data today is available to do so much better if you just are willing to work for it.
Mm. I think the Europeans have banned cold calls, so there is some regulation that doesn't allow brands to simply call out a customer without any particular explicit interest that has been shown by the customer. Then you cannot call that particular customer. So, and similar thing is happening to India. I think TRI is coming up with the regulation very soon. Probably next year it will roll out, where cold calling will be somewhat regulated. I wouldn't say banned, but yeah, somehow it will impact. Um, Coming to emails, the next big channel for sales, I think I have been hearing two side of stories about email. Some people say email doesn't work anymore. Some are saying that email works because every business runs on emails. Without email, businesses cannot function. All the transactional emails go out. Everybody reads emails. So makes email still relevant. It's just that how you, what are the tricks that you apply to the game that matters. So can you share your experience around emails?
I want to say that my overarching opinion is email is a very low ROI channel today. Like that's how I would put it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Every channel works to some extent, whether it is LinkedIn, whether it is calling, whether it is email. All channels work, but what is the ROI on that channel? To me, the ROI is not just the money we put into the channel, but it is also how much time you spend. How many people do I have to reach out to get one interested prospect? From that perspective, email is very poor across geographies. It still
Mm-hmm.
works in APAC. It still works in the US also. But again, you're absolutely right. People have to look at email. But as an example of what I do every day, I get at least 120. I was just recently looking at the number. Every day I get 120 new emails in my inbox. How do I actually review it? I first go look at all my marked as primary email, right? I go and check all of that. So this is my internal stuff, customers that are emailing me, etc. And
Mm-hmm.
then the rest of it I just mark as unread, look at the subject line, and then delete. If I personally feel it's not immediately going to be valuable for me, I'm pretty sure everybody has some similar mechanism for dealing with unwanted email. So the question again is how are you standing out in your subject line? That's the first entry point. The subject line is your gatekeeper. If you can show
Mm-hmm.
some thought, some personalization, some relevance, I will open that email, especially if it's something I'm thinking about at that point of time. Then once I open that email, if the subject line and the body match and it's short, it will still work, right? The
Mm-hmm.
only problem is, however great my email is, let's say today instead of 120, I got a 500 emails, I'm not going to read yours simply
Right.
because there's so much noise in my inbox that particular day. So that is what I mean by it's a very low ROI channel. It's very easy to do, so everybody is doing it in very large volumes. So a lot of it is, are you able to be relevant and personalized on that particular day? Also depends on that day how much message, how much volume or noise are they seeing in their inbox.
Mm.
Therefore, I would still say we use it, but we use it in combination with other channels and based on some behavior patterns that we see. We still use it
Uh,
that way. I mean, we're constantly trying out different things to see what works better or worse.
mhm.
But it's a at this point of time, it's a very low ROI channel.
Got it. What about WhatsApp? Do you also work on WhatsApp? Because I think in India, particularly, WhatsApp is a big channel.
It is.
Uh, People do see WhatsApp messages and respond to them. It's easy to get a reply on WhatsApp than it is on email. And a lot of large sales deals are happening on WhatsApp itself. So, and it's because it's very convenient to, let's say you have sold me some product over WhatsApp. Um, I can simply call you to get a service or anything. So, automobile companies are leveraging WhatsApp in a big way. uh, Same is happening in electronics. So what has been your experience around WhatsApp?
We use WhatsApp as well, actually. However, it's a little bit more of every whatever we do. So, for example, this is a phone number, right? The phone number will be used to send a warm. It can be used to do a warm call. It can be used to send a warm SMS. It can also be used to send a warm WhatsApp message. But generally,
Hmm.
what we try and do is when we cold call people, and they say, for example, like call me back day after tomorrow. If, for instance, we will ask for permission. I know that you're going to be pretty busy. Would it be okay if I send you a WhatsApp message before I call you to make sure that you can take the call? So, when it is
Mm-hmm.
permission based, it works a lot better. And it is absolutely true. Even in B2B, WhatsApp works. It definitely works. It's just
Right.
that, again, with all of the channels constantly sending marketing messages, flyers, newsletters, and WhatsApp, I also have at least 2,500 messages sitting in my WhatsApp today. It's just going to get worse, right? Because as every channel gets more and more populated, you're going to start seeing lower ROI from that channel. But today in India in particular, it still works. Permission based is always better than just sending a cold WhatsApp message because I still ignore all cold. Immediately, in fact, on WhatsApp, you get blocked. I mean, this is what we
Hmm.
have
Hmm.
sent cold messages. But if you
Right.
do permission-based messages, even if it is just I've cold called somebody, I tell them that I will message you. And in that message, you say, I called you the other day, you said it was okay to text you. That works a lot better.
Understood. One thing I've observed, especially in the technology domain, what salespeople are doing is they're recording a small video, and videos are working great. It can be done on a Loom, it can be a small demo of the platform that you are selling, different variants of that. So, has there been any experience of you working on that? Have you done that? And what has been your experience on that?
Videos, generally videos all work because it personalizes, it puts a face to the name. Ultimately, I think it's just breaking down the psychology of de-anonymizing yourself when you reach out to
Hmm.
people, therefore making it a little bit harder to say no to you. That's about it, right?
Correct.
And that is exactly why every channel, these are harder things to do. Picking up the phone is hard, sending a video is hard. But if you're able to do that, and if you're able to also deliver value in the message that you're sending out, I think that it is always a great method. In my opinion, I think you try a combination of things because you don't know what the person on the other end is comfortable with. I hate video. I will not watch any video because for me, reading, I read very fast. So therefore, it's easy for me to read something. But if there's a
Hmm.
3 minute video, I don't want to watch 3 minute video because already I'm thinking I can fast read in 30 seconds, but I have to watch this whole 3 minute video. So you try a combination of things for your particular audience and you kind of see what works better. But it is true that when you put a face to the name in general, it's like how you're able to say no to a stranger, but you know, when you've seen them twice, the third time it's harder to say no. It just becomes a little harder when you have a face and you're saying something useful. None of this
Hmm.
is going to work if you're saying a generic message to 100 or 200 people. The more relevant it is to Priya as I'm talking to you, there is the likelihood is higher that these things will work.
Got it. Uh, One concept in the B2B selling is account based marketing, where you sort of target one account on multiple channels. And like you rightly mentioned, when you see somebody again and again, you tend to gain a certain acquaintance with that person or company, and you tend to notice whatever they are saying more and more. So let's say I send you an email, then I call you, then I send you a LinkedIn message, then I shoot a video for you, then I visit you in person. So that increases the likelihood of a sales conversion. What has been your experience around that?
I think so. Multi-channel is what we had been doing up until from even 2019 until 2024. We continue to do multi-channel. It's not new as a phenomenon because all of the channels have been available for over the last 5 years. So easily available. It's been available before that, but easily available, accessible, and leverageable in the last 5 years. So
Mm-hmm.
multi-channel is always something that has given better outcomes than single channel. That said, even now, even every channel, the way it's being utilized, you have to be creative with it. So for LinkedIn, for instance, you can send DMs, which is a connection request, and then post connect, you can send a message. On LinkedIn, you
Mm-hmm.
can send email. On LinkedIn, you can record a video and you can send a video on LinkedIn. These are the multiple ways in which you can use one LinkedIn profile. A
Right.
phone number can be called. A phone number, you can send an SMS. You can also send a WhatsApp message to multiple. And then you can also send a video in any one of these channels, especially on WhatsApp,
Mm-hmm.
right? So these are multiple ways in which you can use the number. Email, similar thing, right? So the more you're able to be creative and out there, you're able to get attention. But the only cautionary thing here is this: you can get or grab someone's attention by saying something which is like a hook line, right? But
Mm-hmm.
without being relevant to them and their intent at that point of time, you're not going to do anything with that attention. It will drop immediately. If I've grabbed their attention, but I've not said something that is valuable or interesting for them, I
Mm-hmm.
am not going to sustain that attention. So, this is the thing that most people have to, I want to say, understand today. You can use multiple channels, but unless you have a fundamental understanding that I'm talking to a CEO of a, let's say, Series A company, he raised
Mm-hmm.
6 months ago. What challenges could he be going through? What can I solve for? Today, and I have 100 problems every day, right, Priya? You have 100 issues, I have 100. I don't want to solve all 100 today or even this year. There may be three that I want to solve today. This you,
Mm-hmm.
if you have that understanding, because you talk to a lot of CEOs, because you're very clued into the market trends, then you have the ability to capture attention. So all of these things, multi-channel, multiple methods of outreach on every channel, are ways to stand out. But once you've stood out, what you're saying needs to make sense to that person. That is the biggest piece that people tend to miss out on today, in my opinion.
Got it. Uh, One of the constant challenges of even large companies, large, small, any size company it is, one big challenge is the CRM management. So CRM is, I think you would know better than me. It's a system which sort of combines all the data points about a particular customer and keeps it at one place. You're reaching out on LinkedIn, email, and call. You're storing all that conversation data inside a CRM, and so that you can at a later point you can see what has happened to that particular customer, who all have talked to that customer, what conversation has happened, what are the past deals, anything happened to that particular customer is stored inside a CRM. But the challenge here is nothing is interconnected, nothing is integrated. So
Mhm.
your LinkedIn is not linked to the CRM, your email is not linked to the CRM, cold calling is not linked to the CRM. So data doesn't get stored, the data doesn't get analyzed, and it's a constant challenge for every company, I know. So what has been your experience around that, and how have you helped the companies to solve that?
So this actually goes back to the previous question you asked about account-based marketing also, right? Today, I think that normally the understanding is this: if you're selling into large enterprises, you have to do account-based because there are multiple stakeholders and you have
Mm,
to get all of them in. Sales cycles are typically long, but the deal sizes are so large that it makes sense to do account-based marketing to a selected number of accounts, right? That's what it's always been. If you do enterprise, you have to do very focused ABM. Startup, mid-market, you can sort of do a little bit less ABM and more generic, was the previous understanding. But today,
mhm,
because of the noise in the market, you have to do account based for everyone. It's just that when you're talking about account based in a startup or a mid market sector, it's a little bit different. And it is in enterprise, it is a little bit different. The game is a little bit different. Now, how have we helped? So this is the bit of a pivot that we have done as an organization as well, which is that as it becomes easier and easier to get data, reach out to people, talk to people, even say things, write content more and more easily. What we've recognized is the shift is in how are you able to leverage all of this data, analyze behavior patterns, and say the right thing to the to people at the right time. So, and we see this in even the largest of companies, right? Where you will see that they'll be conducting an event. There will be people who are attending the event. That is separate. The
mhm,
partnerships and events team will be handling that. Then inbound will be done by somebody where they're doing ads, they're doing like LinkedIn thought leadership, for example, and they're doing a bunch of other activities. So there's inbound traction. Separately, you'll have newsletters and digests going out to these people. Then you'll
mhm,
have the outbound sales team who will be reaching out, like the customer pool is the same, but they'll be sending separate messages to those people. So, what we are actually working on today, the pivot that we as a company we have done is we still continue to offer appointment setting services, but we help companies to set up integrated go-to-market place where you have events, event attendees are reached out to in the by the outbound team after the event based on the interest level that has been displayed to find out what actions they want to take, right? We build scoring systems so that inbound leads are easily scored and then people know what to action how. It is segregated. Some people are
mhm,
just browsing, right? So for the window shoppers, you put them into the receive information on a weekly basis category. But people who have done some
yeah,
specific actions, opened a blog 4 or 5 times, visited your website multiple times, these are all data points and they should be reached out to by the sales team. So what we are
mhm,
doing is we're helping companies build these kind of playbooks, right? And what I personally think is, and as an agency, I know that when I say this, it sounds a little counterintuitive, but I
mhm,
genuinely think that the larger the organization is, it is important to keep your sales function internal because that way you will internally itself, it's so hard to get visibility across the spectrum. If you also have
yes,
multiple agencies working, it becomes harder. So what we are doing today is, yes, there are people for whom we do outbound appointment setting. That will continue because the requirement for that is going to be there. But the bigger play, the way the market is shifting, and it should shift, is to basically do integrated playbooks within the organization. So we help to come in, evaluate what channels will work on the basis of the ICP that people are targeting,
Mm-hmm.
set up the toolkit for this, train people, see how to set up playbooks for every channel, and allow all of this information to sit in an integrated manner in your CRM. So this is the work that we are actually specializing in doing today. We've already delivered this for like 15 to 20 customers. So you can see it's fairly new, it's relatively new, but this
Mm-hmm.
is where we are seeing the traction happening.
Understood. And one more trend which I have observed, and it has been a, big trend in the sales domain at least, which is called speech to text. So this particular technology has sort of transformed every sales company, every sales organization inside a company. Um, Mainly because all the calls, all the Zoom calls, Google Meet calls that you do can be recorded and transcribed. And
Absolutely.
when you transcribe something, you can further analyze it, which are the keywords coming more often than not, more often than others. uh, it comes as a input to the product leaders, product managers, to incorporate the feedback of customers into the product. It is also a input for the sales head. How is a particular salesperson performing, whether a pitch is working or not. Many such data points come out of these conversations. uh, what has been your experience around that, and how do you think this particular technology is changing the industry?
Oh my God, I think I'm very glad you brought this up. So when I talked to you about different playbooks, right, this is one of the things that I was talking about, which is that call recording, transcription, and analysis tools have existed for a very long time now. What has changed,
Right.
in my opinion, is the fact that you're able to truly do this for every function, not just for sales. You can do it for
Hmm.
sales, for top of pipeline. So, this is the work that we are doing, right? We are actually able to go in, talk to people, transcribe calls. The transcription is available. But then we are, so let's say it's a discovery call. We will then be able to build a workflow to score the discovery call and say that they are, so this may be like a set of five six important things, right? Did they ask questions correctly in the beginning which identified the pain and immediacy? Were they able to understand why now, why us, right? And then, like, you move on to what did they explain the fundamental offering well? Then it is about, did we set a clear next agenda? Did we talk about budget clarification? I'm giving you like some five top issues that you can potentially
Hmm.
cover in a discovery call. This will
Hmm.
vary from customer to customer. My discovery call will look very different from a product company's discovery call. But once
Right.
we've identified overarchingly what should be covered and not left out, we'll then be able to build a scoring system for the discovery call where the analysis is performed and the outcome of this particular executive is typically missing out these two questions. They're very strong in process, but they're weak at setting next steps, will come out.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
I can analyze 500 discovery calls without listening to a single hour of talk time. This is
Right.
huge because no sales leader can listen to 500 discovery calls for every SDR they have. This is
Yes.
what I meant when I told you that AI is changing the game, but not in the way that people are thinking it's going to come and take all of everybody's jobs. It is actually going to take some of your very menial tasks and make it very easy to perform. So we do
Hmm.
this for the sales function. We do this for the demo. Demo obviously has a different structure. So we work with sales teams to understand what is the demo structure, how should it be taken, what should be the next steps from the demo. And then the final closure call. This is important again because if you don't close properly, then your onboarding team has a problem. They don't come in with the right expectations. You can do this for
Right.
onboarding calls, for customer review calls. So this way, you have workflows built into every single revenue function, and all of that, you have continuous improvement processes that can be performed. This is what we built. I told you we've been working with 15, 20 customers on this, right? This is the kind of workflows that we have been building for our clients.
Got it. All right. So, final question before we close. Tell us what is your outlook on the future? How are you envisioning your company probably navigating through next 5 years? Because AI is changing a lot of things. As you rightly mentioned, your company strength, the employee strength reduced because of AI. A lot of the works could be automated, and why wouldn't you automate? So, how do you foresee the next 5 years, and how does it impact to any other company who is having a sales team?
Personally, I think that you have to use tech and adapt, because it's not coming for jobs, it's coming for people who are not able to adapt to the new environment. So what you can do is you can resist, or you can say, I'm going to explore all of this and figure out what works for me, which is kind of what we have done. It's really not me. It's my co-founder who's the sort of AI tool expert, who's always interested in what is new and he's evaluating it. That's the biggest reason why we've kind of stayed on the forefront of this change. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
agencies have actually dropped off in the last couple of years, simply because
Yeah.
they've just shut shop. And I know this, right? Both marketing and sales agencies. The only reason I think we've been able to sustain is because we've stayed ahead of the curve. That said, what you said is also true. There is a bit which is hype, right? You can't just write content entirely with AI and put it up and expect it to do well, because it does
Yeah.
not,
It
it
doesn't
does
work.
not, yeah, it doesn't work. You can get 60% of the way there, and 40% you have to personally write. So I think number one, everybody has to understand that it is there, it's a good thing, and utilize it and make themselves aware and better, right? Like get tech savvy. That's number one. Two, as an organization, where do we see ourselves moving? We're already moving in that direction where, apart from, I think that we will continue, change does not happen at the same rate everywhere. You will see
Mm-hmm.
as they will adapt all the tech and all the tools immediately, and there will be services companies 20 years old who have never done any sales. All their sales have come through network. So they will still come to us and say, can you do appointment setting for us? So it's
Mm-hmm.
not just in India, it's everywhere. Even in the US, this is how we see. Change is not coming at the same pace in every sector. So we'll continue to do appointment setting, but the exciting piece for us is going to be we're going to be the revenue operations partner for mid-market and enterprise level companies going forward in the future, I think. We'll also do this for the startup and the SaaS companies. And this
Mm-hmm.
is the space that I think is the future for us. Because, like I said, there is so much that you can do today. It makes very little sense to not adapt and not use that to give an offering which a lot of people are not capable of giving today.
Right. Absolutely. All right. Thanks for joining in, Harini. It was a pleasure to have you on the platform. And I would say this to all our listeners: if you're listening to Harini, if you are setting up a sales team or struggling with the sales jobs, do reach out to Harini. She will be happy to help you. With on that note, thanks again for joining, Harini. And
Such a pleasure being here, Priya. Thank you for your very, very thoughtful questions. I think I got very excited in the course of the conversation. Thanks for that.
good to hear that. Thanks, Harini.